Well, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Just so everyone knows, we have the meeting is being conducted not only in person, but we're also doing a virtual component this evening, or this morning, today, for anyone who is unable to attend in person, and we are also recording this meeting. This is not going to be broadcast or provided to any members of the public. This is just so anybody who is unable to attend either in person or virtual is able to see what we talked about and what's going on, okay? Excuse me. So before we get going, how about we do some welcome and introductions? We'll start here in the boardroom, and then we'll go to the virtual introductions in just a moment. So my name is Erin Schluto. Hi, everybody. I'm the senior planner here with Canton Township. We'll go this direction.
I'm John Salinas, Municipal Services Deputy Director for Canton Township.
I'm Larry Luckett, Public Service Director for Van Buren Township.
Zach Michelle's Associate Planner, and I'll throw in a fun fact, you didn't ask for it, but I'll do it. I drove from the Netherlands to Wuppertal, Germany on a recent trip so I could ride on the world's oldest functioning monorail.
Interesting.
I'm Madison Beartness. I'm the Housing Director for the City of Livonia.
Greta Bullheis. I'm the Planning and Community Development Director.
Adam Gerlach, City of Plymouth Municipal Services.
Great. Okay, we'll go online. So, Mr. Kermy? Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we can't hear you. Are you on mute? Okay. Anyone else from the online portal?
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Quagliata, City of Northville Community Development Director.
I'm Mayor Ken Voigt, City of Belleville.
Jason Smith, City Manager, City of Belleville.
Steve Jones, Assistant City Manager, DDA Director, City of Belleville.
Good afternoon, Derek Dowdell, City of Inkster, Community Development Director and City Planner.
Is that working? Okay, does that work? Okay, that looks like it's working. Okay, can everybody hear me online? Can everybody hear me online?
Yes.
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 Okay. Good. All right. We got there. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Did everybody have a chance to introduce themselves? And I know we had one more person come into the room.
Yes, sorry, Ron Akers from Van Buren Township. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize, I'm late.
Okay. Thank you all for braving us through our technical difficulties. I appreciate everyone being here, both in person and online. I would just say if anyone's speaking, make sure you speak into the microphone just so everyone online can hear and also the recording can hear as well. So if everyone's done their introductions, we'll just jump right in. So this is going to be a free-form discussion where we want to start having conversations related to our communities and their current, existing, and future transit opportunities. So given the fact, we're going to get into a lot of these things later on, but given the fact that there's new legislation that requires and prohibits Wayne County communities from opting out of the Regional Transit Smart System, we wanted to have these conversations not only from our perspective in Canton, but also from a regional perspective. And that way, when we have these conversations with Wayne County, we can work together as a collaboration rather than just single entities, one individually. So first and foremost, I wanted to get this started by if we could just share our community's thoughts, your community's thoughts on public transit. What have you heard from not only your community members, your residents, your elected officials, staff, people who utilize mass transit, public transportation in its current form. Either Livonia has their Live and Go, or if you are an opt-in community through SMART, what have you heard from your community members? Now, Canton Township has recently done their master plan, going through the adoption process right now, and we heard a lot about public transit and what people want. So Canton currently is an opt-out community from SMART. However, we do have a partnership with Nankin, along with several other communities, Westland, Wayne, Garden City, and Inkster. And what we heard from our community members is that they want more Nankin stops. They want to expand the Nankin umbrella or the boundary. They want to opt into SMART. They want to be able to go from their home to their business, to Detroit, to Ann Arbor, to the airport, and to all the fun places that this Southeast Michigan has. We had over 43% of our respondents of our survey said they wanted to opt into SMART. They want connections throughout the region. So if we could, I'd like to go around the room, and then we'll talk to people online. What have you heard from your community members? Anyone want to jump in? Van Buren, you go first.
Well, just to give you guys a little background on myself, I originally entered transportation with SMART. So I spent 10 years at Macomb and Wayne terminals, running their maintenance department along with operations. So after that, I left SMART and I went to DDOT, which was the bigger umbrella. So I kind of seen it all and kind of have a, mixed bag, if you will, of it's more so when you need the service, is it available? I was at SMART when Livonia opted out of SMART system years ago. And I think it's well needed, and especially Van Buren, because we're up and growing. And as we grow, we don't want to go into this and now we fully grown and we say, oh, now we need transportation. So I think now is the time for us to have those conversations, build a system where it works for all the communities and not one here, one off here, one over there type deals.
And I don't really have too much to add to that. I know our township's master plan doesn't address public transit because for the longest time, Van Buren's been an opt-out community. We're kind of a gap in the system between the SMART system that's provided to the east of us and then the Ann Arbor Transportation Authority, which is to the west. We do have one Ann Arbor Transportation Authority stop on the far west end of the township, but otherwise service is very limited. And I apologize, I'm going to ask Director Luckett because I don't remember off the top of my head, but we do provide senior transportation, and we do some type of paratransit type of options that we offer for some of our residents who need those options. But otherwise, our public transit options are very limited.
Basically perform the same type service like Nankin does. We do the dialysis, we take them out on trips and things of that nature. And I want to say we have 3 vehicles that we utilize at SMART's vehicles. That's a pass-through to Van Buren, so.
And would you say that your electeds or your administration would be welcoming to expanding those services?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else from Van Buren?
Nope.
Excellent. Thank you. Smith, you're up.
We are also working on wrapping up the final adoption of our master plan. When we talked to residents and spoke to people in the community about transportation, mass transit did not come up at all. We have had more traction talking about senior services and senior needs. We do have a senior transportation service that's a partnership with Plymouth Township. And there have been some questions about the future of that operation. So certainly, I think that is one area that we are cognizant of wanting to allow that to continue. But obviously, from a transit standpoint, not a lot of conversations have been had, at least at this point in time. There is support, I would say, from our city commission for what comes next. But with the caveat that it's something that meets the community's needs, that it's not just Detroit, a service for one community or one area in particular. We want it, the city commission wants it to be something that meets, community members' needs.
All right, we'll skip over Huron Township for just a second. City of Livonia, Madison, do you want to share?
Yeah, so we are an opt-out community out of Smart and Livonia, but we do have our own transit system, which is called Live and Go. We take anyone within city limits that is ages 18 and up on our transit service. So we are in a little bit of a unique position because we operate our own transit system in the city. So.
I'll look on there to see if Kevin Kraus is on. He is our Economic Development Director. Kevin, are you on Zoom? Not hearing him. He can speak much more intelligently than I can about this, since he's the one that's more involved. From the planning realm of things, we are embarking on a master plan this year, and it'll come up. It's currently addressed in our ordinance now, but kind of from a real general standpoint. Obviously, the airport is our biggest area of where public transit has a role. Down Eureka and up Middle Belt right now, also to our big employment centers, Amazon. We've got a Kroger Fulfillment Center and a few other places. But other than that, getting feedback from, as we get into that master plan process, we'll know a little bit more. And certainly if Kevin was here, we'd hear a little bit more. So, sorry.
Back to you. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so we're going to pivot over to our online participants. So we have Mr. Ken. Mayor Ken, I'm going to say your last name wrong. Voigt, is that correct?
Voigt.
Okay, yep. Why don't you go on ahead, sir?
Yeah, we're in basically the same boat as Van Buren, although we don't currently have we're also an opt-out community, but we currently don't have a senior transportation program. Our Smart Bus quit on us a couple years ago, and we've been struggling working with them, trying to get it replaced and finding some entity to administer it for us.
And what has been the reaction from your residents about the possibility of public transit? Is that something that they utilize?
We've had a little bit of buzz about it, but not a whole lot. I don't sense that it's not that we haven't had any interest in it, but I don't sense that it's a major issue at this point. I think people have gotten so used to us being out in the hinterlands, as it were, that they don't even think in terms of public transit that much.
And from Westland, Mo?
Good afternoon. How are you? I came in late, but I think the question is, are you an opt-out or opt-in community?
Well,
Is that the question?
Yeah, it's kind of sharing your community's thoughts on public transit. So in the
Oh,
beginning, you
okay.
mentioned,
Yeah.
Canton has undergone our master plan and done a lot of public engagement related to that. So trying to get an idea of where each community lands in terms of public transit. Is there public support for it? Is there elected support for it? Where does the community stand?
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, there is support from elected officials. From my perspective, obviously value highly public as a planner. I think from a practical perspective, we've just really been engaged with SMART on Ford Road, Michigan Avenue, and some of their express routes. I think Maine is one of the other that is serviced by SMART, and we've engaged with them recently to try and upgrade some of, well, not upgrade, but install shelters at some of the stops. We also have Nankin Transit, which I'm familiar with because it operates in Canton as well, paratransit service. We also have something similar with Smart 2 where you can reserve a ride in advance as well. The community's aspirations via the master plan, I think, also support the concept of public transportation, but we just haven't seen those discussions or investments or anything top down, which I think needs to start either state or county. And I just don't think that we will see major investments anytime RTA gets going on some they and for and ask public money for.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up there just a little bit at the end. So if you could just say the last couple sentences again. You don't think that there's support from your top electeds, or are you talking from county and state?
No, I didn't say support. I said just like the RTA has been planning a lot of really good stuff, maybe not here in Western Wayne County, but I don't think from a financing perspective that support has been there either for that to implement those plans. But I think everyone wants to talk about transit and likes transit and understands the positive benefits from a whole wide-ranging perspective. But what are we going to do to finance it when it comes down to it? And what does that look like in Western Wayne County from a practical standpoint?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kermy, we'll pivot to you.
Yes, Plymouth Township has not done a formal survey on transit. We are just beginning an update of our master plan, so I will ensure that we have some type of probing or questioning on that. Our residents with the demographic here have a low want for public transportation. I see the biggest need or want would be from our manufacturing operations north of M14. They may want a route to get workers to their location who either can't afford vehicles or have other transportation roadblocks. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and from an elected perspective, do you think that there's support from the administration to roll out any initiatives or policies?
It is low.
Low, okay.
There's low commitment to that. We've opted out since 1997, very long time. And our senior transportation ridership is amazingly plunging. So I don't know what's caused that, whether we have seniors are more vibrant today and hanging on to their driver's license longer, or if some other unknown activity is going on, they're using ride services. Don't have any data other than the demand is going down.
Okay. Mr. Dowdell?
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as transportation, we City of Inkster recently just redid our master plan. We didn't really touch on it so much. We are part of SMART, and we do Nankin is another one that we utilize. But when we talked about transportation, it was a little bit geared more towards safe streets. We have abundance of accidents along the Michigan Avenue corridor and things of that nature. That's all I got.
And from the city of Northville, Justin?
So our master plan does not address public transportation currently, but we're gonna start an update to that in 2026. Northville's an opt-out community. I think we've, historically opted out just based on the service relevance to the city. If the ability to opt out goes away, I guess we're, from a city standpoint, wondering, what type of, proportional benefit Northville may get from, a millage standpoint that's applied countywide. I think that there is some interest at the elected official level to investigate that. And I think I have one of my planning commissioners in the room there who's another Wayne County planner.
Yep.
So if
She's
she
very good
has
too.
any comments relative to Northville, I'd be happy to hear them, but we're just trying to learn more about how this change to the ability to opt out may affect us, and could we get any benefit if SMART was expanded to our area.
Yeah, I agree. Justin, everything you said was spot on. Being a small community that doesn't have a lot of employment generators, the need really isn't there. Years ago, back when many of us were young, as you can see, I'm old, we used to go and hit the ride share stuff down 96, M14 and 96, and that was back in the day, but that was quite a while ago. So, yep, Justin's got it totally right on the current.
Lori, City of Wayne?
Yeah, so currently, SMART is very, very prominent in our city. We have the Ford Motor Company, Michigan Assembly Plant right on Michigan Avenue. So you see a lot of public transportation taking people. Like Westland, we use Nankin Transit, and we recently have tried to reach out to SMART to provide some better shelters at some of our stops as they're so heavily used.
Steve Jones?
Like, is there, if your trash cans
I
out?
don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Jason Smith?
Yeah, I think I don't really have anything to add more than what Mayor Voigt has already added to that. Other than, we are an opt-out community. We get the occasional call for people that want to do a custom pickup and drop off, but and they can't get a hold of SMART. But outside of that, there's not a lot of demand publicly for anything.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And we have Huron Township here in the
Hi, I
room.
apologize for being late. We were at a SEMCOG seminar. My name's Kelly Trombley. I'm from Huron Charter Township. Currently, the master plan was redone last year, and there is nothing in it in regards to public transit. Our community is definitely not for public transit. We're already getting an outpour of negative comments from our residents not wanting to be taxed in terms of the millage that could come out. With it being 1 mil, our community itself, my treasurer informed me this morning, it would cost us, our township, about $781,000. That would be dispersed amongst all the residents. We already have a lot of residents that are having difficulty in paying their water bill and paying their taxes because 54% of our residents are 60 and older. So we do have a higher population of senior citizens, but they're very active. They drive themselves. In our community, we do have some different areas of bigger corporation. Like we have Amazon, which I know the Romulus mayor has discussed, oh yeah, SMART could be able to get the people to work at Amazon. But that is on a border of Pennsylvania with Huron Township and Romulus. We have a couple other locations that, like we have Bros and some other ones, but the elected officials as well are opposed to the SMART transit coming in for various reasons of the numerous dirt roads that our community has. as well as the train that runs right down the center of our township. So having the transit come in, where are they going to locate a stop that isn't going to get caught up by the train? And then the people are going to have to get from point A to point B to get to that that station to be picked up. Now, if they do the flex program, that might be a little different. However, I'm told that those are going to also apply a fee for a door-to-door service. So again, that's going to tax the seniors in terms of, having to do that type of service through SMART. We don't actually even offer like a senior busing system. The only system that we have with the seniors is we have a senior bus, and then for taking them to different events and things that our senior recreation manager coordinates. So
Special events.
yeah, like they go to Frankenmuth, or they go to a play downtown, or they just go out to dinner, different things for them to, be active. So in our community, we definitely have a high population of no and non-support. And in the last meeting we were on, I believe you might have been on that, Erin. We had questioned, because looking at the map of Smart Transit, our township isn't even on there.
Yeah.
It's on there, but there's no line coming to our community. And when asked, it stated that we wouldn't actually be on their line of transit unless this passes in 2026. So this is why we're trying to be proactive and find out, as we've discussed with you a few times, in trying to see and give our input of what our community would be opt for, so that we are on that line, because we do feel that this could be a high possibility of it going through, just because our population is under 17,000 compared to Livonia or the city of Detroit, where you have thousands of more of people that can vote on this in 2026.
Yeah, so we're all coming at this from different perspectives. I just hearing from the room, there's been, a lot of people say that they're interested in it, or some people are opposed to it. So we've got a lot of work to do in terms of how this could affect everybody, and that's why we wanted to start having these conversations now, start making a plan, start having these understandings of how this could impact us, so that way, if it does go through with the vote in 2026, we're not all scrambling to catch up. So as we go through some of the existing transit systems that are in Wayne County, and some of these we've already touched on, we have the city of Livonia. They have a Live and Go service map. I was going to click on it, but I'm terrified that I'm going to lose something. So I'll send this out to everybody after the meeting's over. They have a really robust service area through their community, even though they're opting out of SMART. I've spoken to Jacob Uhazi several times about their plan and their mobility assessment that was done last year, and how that could lead into servicing a broader area. So looking at their model and trying to see if that can work elsewhere.
I will also say with ours,
yeah.
ours is a door-to-door service, so there's not stops. We pick someone up at their door, we drop them off at their doctor's appointment, or whatever else. So it's more like Smart Flex. It's the door-to-door.
Yeah. Can you expand on that any more, on how that works and the ridership and things of that nature?
Yeah, so we currently operate Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 18 plus door-to-door service. Like you said, we already kind of have a needs assessment for the future. We operate within city limits, but we do go a mile outside of Livonia for doctor's appointments. I want to say our ridership, we do about 2,000 rides a month. We have a fleet of 18 buses. So I'm happy to answer any other questions about our service in particular.
Yeah, so that's a wonderful service, and a lot of these smaller communities have their own, and what we want to try to do is look at not only what Livonia is doing, what all of our communities are doing, Nankin is doing, SMART, DDOT, and how that can all work together. So here on the screen, we see the Detroit map, their service area for their transit system. Nankin, as I mentioned, that services Canton Township, Westland, Wayne, Inkster, and Garden City. So we all have, a lot of us have our feet in certain areas or have opted into certain services or offer things to our seniors, whether it's through the Parks and Recreation as special events or through other means that are designed to take them where they need to go, through appointments or et cetera. So, but how can these all work together? How can we build on our existing framework? How can they go into other areas? So as we mentioned, SMART here, we have the map on the screen. So the opt-in communities are all in green here, and then we have Detroit, who has historically opted out, and then in red, the rest of us. Now, we wanted to look at, we invited everyone here, and we had to draw a line at some point. So we see a lot of the western Wayne County communities included in this, especially the ones that are located in the red. So I don't think, have we missed any of the public transit systems within your communities that we haven't touched on here today? So I don't miss any? Okay. So then we want to talk about the future transit opportunities. As I mentioned, you know, House Bill 6088 is now Public Act 236. It's modifying, it is ending the opt-out provision for Macomb, Oakland, Wayne counties from opting out of SMART. It went into effect on April 2nd of this year, and it will impact the proposed transit millage vote of 2026. Now, as I understand it, the language is still being worked out through Wayne County, so we don't know exactly how that's going to be phrased, but that's something that we're keeping a strong eye on to make sure that as we move forward with any of our own individual or collaborative planning efforts, we know how things are going to be phrased for the voters. So just a little background information, which I found interesting. So Macomb County has never had an opt-out option for their communities since 1995. They had a 2022 public transportation millage, 68.6% were in favor. They improved their millage increase and a SMART renewal. So that won't really impact the vote on 2026 won't impact Macomb County because they're already opted in, whether they are serviced or not, and most of them are not. Most of them are giving communities and not receiving of any of the benefits of SMART. Oakland County has 62 communities. Prior to 2022, there were 34 communities that were not part of the regional transit system. However, they had a county-wide vote that went 57% in favor, and they eliminated their opt-out option. I've talked to a couple of people from Oakland County communities, and they were surprised that this went in favor. They didn't think it would, and so they had to scramble to try to figure out what to do now that they were included in the SMART system. So that's something that we don't want to have happen. I am having some conversations with some of those individuals from those communities later on this week and early next week to find out what were their success stories, where were their landmines, what lessons can we learn from their past experience. So once I have some information, I'll pass those on to you as well. But their millage term extended from 4 years to 10 years. So they won't be coming to a vote on a millage for transit until 2032. This vote will impact us in Wayne County considerably. Now, in 2022, the millage renewal was 71% in favor, but 17 communities are still opted out of the SMART network. So if this millage goes through in 2026, we will all be part of a system, and we want to know how we can be at the table, right? We don't want SMART coming in or Wayne County coming in and saying, this is what you have to do, this is where it's going to go. We want to make sure that if there's going to be stops, if there's going to be an expansion, and certainly if there's going to be money invested from our residents, we can point to where the improvements and where the transit locations are going to be and say, this is how this helps you, right? It's going to be a hard sell for some people in some communities, but we want to make sure that we're at the table. Okay. And then just for purposes to show you the communities again that are out of SMART. So the opportunities that we can talk about that we want to look at curb-to-curb intra-community transit, what we want to look at is opportunities not only for communities to have your own transit. You know, if Live and Go is successful in Livonia, certainly, you know, our discussions here are not meant to reinvent the wheel or to change anything that's working. We want to look at, see, how are you doing this? Can we do this? Is this something that can branch out to another community? I know you said 1 mile outside your border. So can you go 2 miles? Can you go 3 miles? What does that model look like? How can that work? And then how can someone living in your community go to their doctor's office and visit someone who lives in our community in Canton? Can that happen? So connections not only through the community itself, but also through the region in Southeast Michigan. Connections to Nankin, DDOT. And what we want to do is make sure we maintain that high level of existing services. Your ridership is high, you said, and certainly we want to make sure that those services that are in existence now do not change. We don't want to take anything from the riders and especially the seniors or disabled residents who rely on those just so someone else can have an experience because they don't want to drive. And I'm being a little glib on that front, but I want to make sure that that's stated as clearly as I possibly can, that we don't want, and I don't think anybody in this room or online would say, let's get rid of, you know, services to our senior residents. So we want to make sure that those things are protected, but also looking at opportunities to expand it outside of that. And that includes microtransit, paratransit, flex programs, and other things like that. So when we look at what this could look like and how this could be, we know that Wayne County is having some visits with their communities. Has everyone, I know we haven't met, Canton hasn't met with Wayne County yet to talk about our community and priorities, but has everyone else done theirs? Who has done theirs? Van Buren has, Huron, Livonia. Okay, I need to go back to Plymouth Township has not. Who on the online has had theirs? You want to just shout out who's met with Wayne County?
Belleville has.
Northville has? Okay,
I'm not sure if Northville has or not.
okay.
You said Belleville.
Belleville?
We
Plymouth
have.
Township has already had their meeting with Wayne County.
The city of Wayne has not.
Okay. So it looks like most communities have not yet. Okay. I know that those are forthcoming, and Huron, I know that you have, and we've talked at length about this. So maybe you could give a little bit of background as to what they said, and Van Buren, if you want to expand on that any more based on your experience.
Basically, at our meeting on March 12th, we touched on some of the infrastructure was a large portion of our meeting, but then we did touch on the transit and our concerns within our community for it. And they said currently they're just collecting data by seeing where residents within each municipality are traveling outside of it, where they're going, how far, and how often. And then they said they would be coming back to us with this data and share. And then we could voice and maybe, you know, we can have some more conversation and input into what we would like to see happen within our community. That's but we have not heard anything back from them in regards to this as of right now.
Okay, so no community data has been shared?
No.
Okay. Van Buren?
And Van Buren, we're probably in that same frame. We met with them. Our supervisor did kind of express his wants, what he wants to see if this goes forward and the voters choose to have that service. But the big thing was just connecting SMART and the ride from Ann Arbor coming to Van Buren. Those connections fit, and there's, you know, no gap there where you have folks maybe having to walk 2 miles to get to a terminal or a stop or whatnot. So, you know, from my experience, that's been some of the biggest challenges how often service run, how far residents gotta travel to get to a major line. And, to be totally honest, just, the big thing, like, I'll take Detroit for instance, the big thing was traveling the major corridors, not going into the neighborhoods, to the apartments, if you will, gathering those folks that don't have a car and getting those out to the major lines and where they can travel, city to city.
And the concerns that were mentioned to Wayne County, what was their response to those?
They were very favorable. Wayne County thing was that they, good partners with Detroit and good partners with Ann Arbor, so they didn't foresee that being an issue. Just expanding. So like Director Akers said, the ride stopped at the west side of Van Buren, turns around and goes back to Ann Arbor. Well, if they come, a mile or two farther, they'll come into our township. What that looks like. So if you take right now, I know the Michigan Avenue bus coming through Wayne stops right west of the plant. I want to say go like to Hannah, and then it turns around and head back east. But if they came a little farther down to Belleville Road, that'll be our main corridor. You get off the bus traveling east and west, jump on a bus going north and south. That way they can come to Canton, or they can come to Belleville, Van Buren, go south.
And the community data, did they mention any community data? Have they
did.
provided anything to you yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, and when was that meeting with them?
That meeting was approximately 2 weeks ago.
Okay. And Belleville, you said that you had met with Wayne County?
Yeah, I met with Wayne County and expressed the same, concerns that Van Buren has, that the smart line doesn't come west of 275, so it's really not doing our residents any good at all. I'm not enthusiastic. I think that Wayne County's not happy with SMART and that they'd like to come up with something else. That's the impression that I got. They're not happy with the job that SMART has done to date. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that is the impression that I got.
Have other communities who've met with Wayne County had that same impression? That Wayne County is not thrilled with the SMART services and might be looking at alternative
Yes.
options? Okay. Okay.
I did not get that impression. We did not speak about SMART in our meeting.
And what was your meeting like?
With Wayne County, it was in
Yes.
March, and it was a discussion about how we don't really recognize a strong need among the residents, but we may have a business need for transporting workers. And they said they would work on getting data for the community, and it sounded like they were going to use SEMCOG and census information to gather some type of data. They have some consultants that they've hired to do some work.
Okay, but you haven't received any of that data at this point?
No.
Okay.
It's only been 3-4 weeks, so I wouldn't expect it yet.
Yep, nope, just getting an idea as to what has been discussed and what has been delivered to each community. And Livonia, you said you've met with them too?
We did, and I can't remember when we met with them. It's been a couple months since we met with them. We kind of had the opportunity to go over our existing transit program with them, and as well as let them know that if this was to pass, Livonia would like to see services come back to Livonia and similar to what Plymouth said, not have this pay for other communities, but see services come back to Livonia residents.
Is there anyone else who would like to share anything about their Wayne County visit?
From Van Buren, I didn't get the senses that they wasn't happy with SMART, but I think they're looking for an entire Wayne County regional approach. This has been challenged about 15 years, I would say. So, you know, like I said, you don't need the service till you need the service. Then you got to figure out a way to get the service. So I think that's why we're having these conversations up front rather than later after the fact.
Well, I think we've also heard a lot of what people's priorities are and people's concerns are here if there is to be, say, forced or mandated connections to SMART. So that leads us into kind of the crux of our meeting here and why we've been reaching out is to discuss an opportunity to participate in a regional public transit needs assessment project. And this would look at assessing the existing conditions within all of our communities, a lot of the concerns and priorities that we've mentioned here today, do a demographic analysis of our community members. I know a lot of people have that information ready to go, especially if you have done or are about to do your master plan updates. Want to evaluate the ridership in each community and see where it's the strongest, where it could be improved, and then consider a recommended transit improvements, locations, and expansion opportunities. This would be an opportunity for us to look at transit not only through our communities, but how it can affect the entire region. And if we all work together on this through the Western Conference of Wayne County Communities, we could really have some force or some authority when we talk to Wayne County about what we want to do and how we can support our residents, because the needs of Canton Township is different than the needs of Van Buren, even though we share a border, and certainly very different than Huron Township, City of Plymouth, Plymouth Township, et cetera. So every community is going to have their priorities and their concerns, and this would be a way for us to really dive into this and look at it from a regional perspective instead of just a community-centric perspective. So the reference map of the communities that we've engaged with today are a lot of the opt-out communities. Certainly some of them have opted in, but we wanted to take that and see what could work here throughout the region. So what we wanted to determine today, at least get an idea of who our project partners could be, what community members, and certainly we do not need you to sign anything today and say for absolutely certain we're in, but if this is a project or an initiative that your communities would be interested in participating in, we have assessed that we want to have the draft plan submitted to Wayne County by the end of this year, early next year, January 2026 being the absolute deadline. So that way, when the millage vote comes in August 2026, we already have a plan to Wayne County on how this could come to fruition. So that's kind of, we have this is a very draft project scope, but it would include looking at the timeline, a public engagement. We've already talked to Conference of Wayne County about a public survey, and this would be a regional survey with very similar, with the exact same questions going out to our residents, and then each community could add a couple of questions on the end specific to your communities on how we could delegate ridership or see who needs what. We can have public meetings, stakeholder discussions. We wanted to get this in front of everybody and start talking about these initiatives, because drafting a survey, having public meetings, having stakeholder discussions. You know your community members and who would want to participate and who to target and who to invite to these meetings. So if we're going to do a collaborative project, it's good to get this out in the forefront and start doing it as soon as possible. We also want to identify any funding sources. You know, this is going to be an endeavor, no doubt, and we don't want any single community to have to lift a heavier share. So if there's opportunity to get some of those funds from either SEMCOG, Wayne County itself, if there's grant opportunities, I know that Livonia had their mobility assessment was through a grant through SEMCOG. So if there are funding sources, we want to make sure we identify them, get our proposals submitted as soon as possible, so that way we can recoup those funds as possible. An RFP to go out for consultant services. We can then talk about collecting demographic data, if that's something that each community has ready through their master plan process or other planning initiatives. You know, we can get those to our consultants, and that way it'll alleviate some of their legwork and certainly save some money in the budget on that front. And then look at scheduling bi-monthly meetings so we stay on top of everything. So that's kind of, that's been our pitch. That's what Canton is looking to see, who's interested in this type of endeavor. Now, we have a draft scope that I can send out to everyone afterwards, just to kind of keep us on track on what steps we want to take. But I guess for now, it's looking at who do you think is interested from this group, from online, in participating in this type of collaborative projects. I know there's still a lot of, things up in the air, but just so we can kind of get an idea and start to draft a timeline for all of the engagement and all of the milestones we'll need to hit.
Yeah, the city of Plymouth is interested.
Excellent.
The
West
Huron
Plan
Township.
would be interested as well, would appreciate any abilities to comment on the scope and things like that before it goes out. Also recognizing we're a very small portion of Michigan Avenue, which is probably mostly what you're studying.
Well, it would involve regional transit everywhere. So if Michigan Avenue is the hub and is the corridor that you would want to focus on, that would be the priority and a concern that we would identify and discuss with our consultants in moving forward. But yes, Michigan Avenue is definitely one of the corridors that we would be looking at.
Van Buren and look, take a real close look at it.
I think this Belleville, although I'm not enthusiastic about the project, I think that I see this possibly, if we don't do this type, what you're suggesting, that it's just going to get jammed down our throat. So I think it'd be foolish not to participate in this.
Yeah, the fabulous way to describe it is if it's jammed down our throat, at least we get to select what it is.
Exactly.
If it's a tasty thing versus a nasty thing.
Exactly.
It looks like it's coming. I mean, they've been trying to do this for a long time.
Okay, so let me just go around the room. Romulus? I hate to put everyone on the spot, but.
I can't speak on behalf of the city, but I'm assuming so.
Okay.
Let me follow up.
Sure. Livonia?
I'm going to say the same thing. I need to follow up with the mayor's office to make sure.
Yep, I'm not holding anybody to this. I'm just trying to get a guidepost as to, from your professional experience and knowing your electeds, knowing your communities, your entities, if you think this would be a.
Yeah, I would like to
Worthwhile.
say yes, but let me just double check.
No, I appreciate that.
Well, as a follow-up, what are some things that you would want to be able to share with your electeds and higher-ups to help them decide?
I think I have enough information to share with them based on what we've discussed today. Just want to double check with them to make sure before giving you a firm yes on it.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to go on to online. So we've heard from Mo from Westland, Justin from Northville.
I would say Northville's interested, but relative to any funding, we would have to get city council approval, and I guess it would just be the value of that, what they would approve us to spend.
Lori from Wayne?
I would want to have conversation with both the city manager and the mayor prior to making any commitment, but I will present this information to them.
Anyone else I missed?
Plymouth Township. Plymouth Township is tentative. We have to discuss this in some planning with our board. What shall anything that I need to tell them that would make them more interested other than sharing this presentation, which doesn't exactly explain what we would be getting into?
Well, I can share the presentation with you, and this was just a preliminary, let's meet and greet and let's see if this is something that there is some interest in moving forward. Now that we have, I can send the draft project scope to everyone and lay out some deliverables of what would we be expecting and how we can move it forward. Would that suffice, Plymouth Township?
Yes, that something's better than nothing. That's good. And then we'll discuss it among our township board and planning to see what the level of interest is. What date do you want to begin the RFP?
Yes.
Or issue the RFP?
Well, now that we have at least some, positive feedback from the room, that'll be something that we start to draft. I'll look at, we've received, Livonia was kind enough to share their RFP that they sent out for their mobility assessment. So we'll start drafting and putting that together and looking at probably sending that out within the next couple of weeks.
When you say next couple of weeks, the draft version, but the formal RFP is to be determined, right?
Correct. Yeah, that would be something we would look at collectively together, and we can set bi-monthly meetings to do that and also correspond electronically to see how everything shakes out there. But also looking at where our funding sources may be coming from, because if it's exclusively through the general fund, that might limit some people, but we're looking at opportunities for any kind of grant funding which could help us out with this. So we're mindful of that as well.
Right, thanks.
Aaron, this is Derek with the city of Inkster. I'd say tentatively we're interested. But like I said, that's a conversation I need to have with the mayor. But from my professional standpoint, I think it's something that we probably should be involved in.
Okay, well, just to say, I'm glad that there's at least people are interested in continuing these conversations, and this wasn't a flat out no thank you, but nice to meet you all. So this is a good starting point for us to continue these discussions. I will send out the PowerPoint presentation to everyone, as well as the draft scope that we have. We'll start having a conversation about project timeline. I'm working with the Conference of Wayne County on a draft survey. We're going to get that moving. These are things that even if we just do a survey, is worthwhile to get out to our residents, whether we move forward with this assessment as a collaboration or not. It's still a worthwhile effort. It still gives us a sense of where people are thinking, especially if you haven't done your master plan or your master plan doesn't specifically address public transit in great detail. So that would still be something that could be worthwhile for everybody regardless. So what I would ask is that everyone start thinking about, as we move forward with this, who could be your target audiences for sending out your surveys to? How would be the best way to do that to your residents? Whether that be through a water bill, through, what is that called? It starts with an N. It's an email blast. Thank you. I can't
Nexel?
Yes, thank you. Through that, or through just posting up flyers, or sending out any number of methods of communication, Facebook, anything like that. Your community members, how they engage. What would be the best way to do that? And then so we'll start looking at funding sources. We already have a draft RFP that we can look at and look through. And then we would like to start scheduling some bi-monthly meetings, at least to just stay on track on how we do this, So they don't have to be in person, although sometimes that's really good for engaging in one-on-one conversations, but we'll still have a Zoom component because everyone's busy. But before we move on, are there any questions about your next steps, our next steps, how we're going to move this forward? If there are any questions related to follow-up discussions that you need to have with your electeds, your staff, please let us know. Again, we're not holding anybody to any definitive yes, no, or otherwise. It's just good to know that there is, at least from a professional standpoint, people in the room, people online who want to move this forward in some capacity. So I thank you all for coming, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay.
Say, it's awesome to be able to meet and chat with folks from across the imaginary lines on the ground. We should do this more often, not just when we're under the gun of legislation.
And thank you to Canton for organizing and putting this together. Thanks for your leadership on this.
Thank you. It was
Yes,
nice meeting
thank
you
you.
all.